Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome. I'd like to begin my talk today by taking a brief look at the cattle industry. Now, the cattle industry is one of the oldest industries on the planet. It begins in the 15th century when men started bringing cattle from Europe to America with the purpose of trying to raise them. And with the help of the Industrial Revolution in the 17th century, the cattle industry took off. Nowadays, since that day, the cattle industry has grown to become one of the largest and one of the most important industries in the world, with a net worth of $1.4 trillion. As of 2016, there are approximately 1.3 to 1.5 billion cattle in the world. And that's the same as having one cow for every 7 people in the world. And funnily enough, there are countries in the world, such as in New Zealand, where the number of cattle outnumber that of humans. In New Zealand, the ratio is 2 to 1. Now, when we talk about cattle and when we talk about their uses, we all think of the most obvious ones, such as meat, dairy products, and their leather, their skin for the leather. But in actuality, there are over 180 primary products that are made from cattle, and many more that are derived from their byproducts. So what we're going to do is take a brief look at some of these products. Okay, so most of us wake up in the morning and we go to the bathroom to take a shower. And if you look around your bathroom, you can already find some products that are made from cattle. For example, you can find your soap and your shampoo. These products are made by boiling the fatty acids of the cattle to give a hardening agent, which is then used to give soap its shiny texture as well as the ability to retain its shape. So after your shower, you're all fresh, you sit down for breakfast and decide to have a slice of bread or a glass of juice. In the bread making industry, the fine hairs of the cattle are used to make the dough rise in the baking process. And if you're having a glass of juice that is made from the factory, then it is most likely like a gelatin gel has been used to get rid of the impurities. And in medicine, we encounter these products as well. For example, the tablets, your gelatin tablets, your capsules, they are made from cow gelatin. And earlier preparations of insulins were derived from cow's pancreas. Nowadays, they're made synthetically. And what I find most ingenious and most interesting is the development of the bovine prosthetic heart valve, which is a prosthetic heart valve made by incorporating the tissue of cow with a metal stent. So as you can see from the slide, there are many other products that are made from cattle, some of them very obvious, some of them not so obvious. And then this brings me to the real part of my talk today, which is, if we humans can derive so many uses from an animal, where does that put us in terms of our own potentials? Now, niche. Niche is a term that is used in various fields. It is used in ecology, business, economics, and even architecture. And it therefore has a lot of meaning. But if we were to simply define it in ecological terms, it describes the role of an organism, the role an organism plays in the environment, including what it needs and what it provides. Or we can simply say that it is a place or a position. So this is an example of an ecological niche. At the base, you have the plants. They provide food as well as shelter for the rabbits, and the rabbits then in turn provide food for the fox. Now, this is just a representation of the niche. It's not always like this. I mean, humans will not eat the fox. It's just a basic representation. For the purpose of my talk today, the previous slide can be reimagined into this Venn diagram. It looks different, but the idea behind it, the concept is similar, because the colored rings represent the different levels or stages. And in this case, they present your potential, your passion, and the community's needs. Each of those rings overlap over an area, and each area signify or represent a niche, a position. And if you have noticed, it is only in the middle do they overlap or converge in an equal manner. And that spot is the ideal niche. It is the ideal niche because it allows you to realize your potential, combine your passion to meet the community's needs. So how do you go about finding your niche or finding your position in today's world? Well, I will share you 3 steps with you that the experts say that will help you if you do so. The first is to know yourself. The second is to create value. And the third is to create opportunities. To know yourself. Albert Einstein once said that the formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution. In the process of knowing yourself, we must formulate the problem by asking ourselves questions. We must ask ourselves the what, who, when, where, and how. We ask ourselves, what are your strengths? And more importantly, what are your weaknesses? Ask yourself, how can you build on these strengths and how can you improve on your weaknesses? Where is it the best place for you to nurture your talents and grow your skills? How can you get your ideas on greater platforms? All these are simple questions, but they are important questions in getting yourself a sense of who you are and where you stand. It is because only then, when you have a self-awareness, a sense of self-understanding, can you move on to the next stage, which is creating value. Now, what does it mean to create value? To create value means to add onto oneself something of worth so that you are different from someone else, so that you stand out from someone else. We live in a world that is ever-changing, with opportunities, solutions, and innovations being generated at a super fast rate to meet the demands of our society. So how can we effectively create values for ourselves so that we don't get left behind? Well, it turns out that creating value is very simple. It does not have to be big. You don't have to go around starting multi-billion-dollar companies, well, unless if you want to. I know some of you want to. But you can start small. You can begin with learning a new language, for example. You can start by immersing yourself in new cultures, by traveling. Whatever it is, give it a try. Do it. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba.com, once said that opportunity lies in places where people complain. He, and like others before him, realized the importance of creating value from people's needs. Identify the needs in your surroundings and challenge yourself to be the person who is able to fulfill those needs. Creating value, the act of creating value, is in itself valuable because you are enriching yourself with new skills and talents. We then move on to creating opportunities. To know how to seize an opportunity is a great skill to have, but a better skill and a greater gift is the ability to be able to create opportunities, not just for yourself, but others as well. Because successful people don't wait for opportunities to knock on their doors. What they do is they build the doors that lead to these opportunities. So how can you create opportunities for yourself? Well, here are some of the ways that you can do so. First is to pay attention to your surroundings. How many of us spend countless hours on our mobile phone, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Facebook, all those? There's nothing wrong in that. That's okay. But start noticing things around you. Expand your perspective into your surroundings and their developments. And you'll be surprised how much you can learn by just being there. Because people who notice things learn much more than people who don't. It's just logic, isn't it? Second, embrace diversity. Each one of us here is better at something than the other. Would you agree? Give me a nod. Yes, good. So, people who seek to become opportunity makers often look for other people who are unlike themselves. So, we should embrace diversity, not be scared of it. Because people who embrace diversities, they create vital connections that will allow them to solve problems better and faster, and thus be able to create and seize more opportunities. Third step is to communicate. Now, there's nowhere more easier to do so in today's day and age because we can instantaneously connect with each other at the flick of a button or a click of a mouse. But what matters most is who are you connecting with? Seek to connect with people who share common interests with you and who are able to complement your skill sets so that you are able to evolve your ideas. Number 4 is to be curious. Just ask questions. There's nothing wrong about that. People who ask questions gain knowledge, and knowledge is power. Last but not least is action. I think this is the most difficult part of it all. Many of us have been stuck with procrastination and all those. So you must remember that there's no use in having all the greatest ideas in the world if you don't put them into action. And you must remember that the distance between your dreams and your reality is something called action. So start living your dreams and start making your potential come true by putting a little effort into them. Now, what the hell am I saying? Why is this guy talking about cattle, niche, and potentials? What am I trying to say? Well, what I'm trying to say is don't be the cattle. That's the first thing. Don't be the cattle because the cattle's niche is defined by people. Don't let people define your position or your niche. Unlike the cattle, we have the ability to define ourselves. So go forth and do that. And yes, indeed, I do believe that the grass is always green and that there will always be opportunities for people who seek them. And that the only limitations we have is the limitations that we impose on ourselves in our minds. And with that, I'd like to end my slide with a quote from Paulo Coelho, who said that when you want something, all the universe conspire in helping you to achieve it. Thank you.